I grew up with stories of my parents' parents, my grandparents, immigrating to this country just after the turn of the century. Mom's parents, Mike and Linu, came from Finland, and Dad's mother, Mary, whom we call Baba, came from the Ukraine, and his father, John, came from Poland. They left everything behind to start over in a foreign land. They were hardy stock, and my father often said they were poor, but as kids they never knew they were poor. Mom's family settled in Minnesota, drawn by the government's offer of free land to those willing to homestead. They had to clear the land, farm it, and live there. The only real possession Mom's family had was the family cow, and they even lost that when it was hit by a train. But what they did have that could not be destroyed was the finished quality of Sisu, a certain hardiness, determination in the face of adversity. Some call it stubbornness. One of the things Mom knew, even at an early age, Minnesota and the cold was not where she wanted to stay. After she graduated from high school and secretarial school, she moved to Washington, D.C. to work as a secretary during the war, where she met my dad. My father's family settled in Pennsylvania and lived through the Great Depression. Things were tough for the family. Dad knew the best places in the woods for gathering walnuts, raspberries, and mushrooms. And my dad also knew where to get coal to heat the house. He explained that they knew about a certain place where when the train would go around the bend, the coal would fall out of the coal car and they could gather it up. He also explained that when the train would go around the bend, it would have to slow down, and he and his brother Steve sometimes would have to get up on the coal car to help some of the coal fall out. When Mom and Dad got married, Mom converted from Lutheranism to Catholicism. Ironic, isn't it, that they would spend their last days in Carroll Lutheran Village? Early on, we were immersed in the traditions of the Ukrainian Catholic Church. Ukrainian Easter eggs, the priests visiting the house to bless the baskets of ethnic foods for Easter dinner. One of my earliest memories, Dad taking me to church on Good Friday to participate in the tradition of processing up the center aisle on our knees to say a prayer in the front of Jesus' tomb. One of the things that our parents instilled in us was the ideal of self-reliance. My dad would say, God helps those who help themselves, by which he meant that you need to take responsibility for yourselves. It also meant not being wasteful. We always had a garden and fruit trees, and while we lived on the farm, we also had steers and chickens. I had the job one summer of helping to slaughter the chickens. I remember Baba, our grandmother, visiting us that summer, and I can still picture her outside sitting in front of a large tub of scalding hot water. She would dip the slaughtered chickens in the hot water, which would help when she pulled the feathers out. We also learned how sweet freshly picked corn could be. At the end of the summer, we would help Mom prepare the vegetables for canning and freezing that would last us through the winter. Even after I left the house, as long as my parents had a garden, I would never go home without fresh or canned vegetables. And that spirit of generosity was not limited to the family. When they got to the point where they could no longer garden, it was a rare person who could leave Mom's room without a piece of candy. We were constantly supplying candy for Mom to give away. And don't leave without some today because Mom is watching. There's all the candy in the back. But one of the most important things my parents gave me was the sense that they were always there for me. I felt the absolute certainty of all this all my life. As a child, a teenager, as an adult, and even now as I start to creep into my old age. They were and would always be there for me. They were always my parents. And because they lived so long, I had the privilege of giving some of that being there for me back to them. I'm sure glad that they stayed with us so long. And what is this being there with someone through everything, through thick and thin? We call it love. When Mom passed on December 10th and Dad followed 3 days later, I thought of the verse from the book of the Song of Songs, "Love is as strong as death." But with the coming of Jesus and the witness of my parents, I know that this is not quite true. The truth is, love is stronger than death. Even death could not keep them apart for long. Mom and Dad, Mom and Dad, you live on in our memories and in the blood that flows through my veins. I love you and miss you, but I know you are still with me even now because love does not die. Thank you.